Hello, my name's David. I'm an environment artist, and here we are today in Forza Horizon 4. And we're starting off from my home city of Edinburgh here, and we're going to have a look at the Cumbrian town of Ambleside, which is nestled in the foothills of the mountains of what we call here in the UK the Lake District National Park. And it's a beautiful area filled with some reasonably high mountains for the UK at least. And the Lake District is an area I'm very familiar with because I lived there for about 10 years and actually worked in Ambleside for a few years as well. So I thought it would be very interesting to compare the in-game version to the reality of the place. And we'll have a little back and forth between some Google Earth footage just to show you how the developers have captured the essence of the place, what they've left in, what they've omitted, and just generally how they've attempted to capture the flavour of the location, which is what Forza Horizon is sort of synonymous with, isn't it? They do real world locations, and so it was going to be quite instructive, I think, to see what is important to the developer as they see it, in order to, just really boil down a location to a few key essence points, and so that can kind of give people who know those locations a good impression of driving around that location. And I think they've done a pretty good job actually. So before we get into that, I certainly want to thank my channel members. Always appreciative. Thanks very much for being on board. And if you're considering becoming a channel member, we have a private Discord server just for the channel members. So it's a small but growing group, and it's a relaxed place to be. And I tend to focus my attention on that server above any other Discord or YouTube comments, things like that. So you generally just get more access to me basically, and we can have a good chat about all things gaming and whatever else occurs. So yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for existing channel members. So we'll continue zooming down the road, and we'll get to the outskirts of Ambleside. So we are just south of Ambleside, and we're approaching on the left here what is a fairly iconic bit of geography really as you approach Ambleside. Just before you get into the town, you see this sort of bar of land on the left jutting out into the lake, and this in the summertime is a very popular little spot for people just to sort of have little picnics, and you'll often see kids splashing about in the lake edge. A lovely little spot, nice scenic view across the lake. So you can see the differences of the reality and game, can't you? Where they've accentuated, say, the hills on the far side of the lake, and there's a sort of lot of exaggeration in those key areas that make it feel like the Lake District National Park. But otherwise, it's a really good sort of indicator to people that know that area that, oh right, yeah, there's that there in reality, and so I should be just arriving in Ambleside shortly. So as a person who knows this area well, I was really pleased to see that. Really good. So we'll carry on and get to the very edge of the little town for another bit of a landmark that immediately caught my eye. And it's a place that, now they're converting it into fancy houses, fancy lakeside houses, which will go for an absolute fortune in this location. Very expensive. But here we go. Here's the Ambleside sign. And here we are. We've got the marina for water sports, boating. I went water skiing here many years ago. And it's one of those buildings that tells you, if you know the area, that you're going to Ambleside. And again, really pleased to see it there. Okay, so moving on. Goodbye, marina. Bye, marina. So I had to go back to 2011 for that Google Earth footage there. Is when the marina went out of business. So this is very much similar to the southern edge of Ambleside here. You see this very what you call lakeland architecture and building materials. So lakeland being anything that is of the Lake District National Park, and there's a lot of slate quarries in the area, and so nearly all the buildings that you see are of this sort of wall construction. It's really distinctive, and the developers have really leaned into that, which makes perfect sense because that's exactly what you want to be doing to capture the flavor of the area that you're trying to portray if it's from the real world. So this, just one look at that is a dead giveaway for this area, and it's a bit of a gift for developers of this sort of game. You know, it's that's what you want in these locations that you're trying to make your game in. You know, you want distinctive looks, characteristics of that area that sort of really shout out. And as you can see, in the real world, there is a row of housing in front of us there, but the developers have chosen to strip that out just to give some better views of the mountains and the lake and stuff like that, which makes sense. Makes perfect sense. So if we have a nice little slow look around the place, we can see there's a few missing buildings, but very much the same as this pier here. They've caught the look of that really well. They've got the road going off to the left, and then the road on the right there. Yep, that's exactly how it is. I used to drive this way every day going to work. Yeah, and all the way back around to here. This little area here is really popular in summertime especially. This is absolutely rammed with tourists along this spot. It's a great spot to get some ice cream. It's very popular, and of course you can get the ferry across the lake to various different places. And coming over here to these piers, this is a very distinctive lake edge feature of a lot of the Lake District's lakes. You can find this here, of course, Windermere, Derwentwater, Ullswater. The very popular thing having these rowboats here. I'm particularly fond of this scene because back in 2010, I did a painting of a very similar scene to this. It was actually Derwentwater, which is the lake to the north of Windermere here. But this scene is almost identical. If I just sort of move down that way, imagine a ferry at that pier there, and this is a watercolor I did 16 years ago now, fading into the deeps of time. But yeah, I just have a real fondness for these rowboats because I used to go on these when I was young. My dad would take me on these rowboats and we'd go on the lake. We might do a bit of fishing, and they were just great fun little boats, and they're varnished to a lovely sheen, and it's almost like a sort of cherry wood, very distinctive of the Lake District. So it's no accident that the developers have got these here. So we'll pop back in the car. We'll continue on, take the left-hand route here, and up ahead is another very distinctive piece of architecture of Ambleside. It's not in exactly the same place that it is, of course. The developers have taken quite a few liberties with the layout of Ambleside. They've actually kind of stripped out the core of the town because it's quite a small, bustling, narrow street sort of affair, Ambleside. And so they've kind of taken a mishmash of the outskirts of Ambleside to give it space so that the players can obviously drive around at top speed, because you wouldn't be able to do that in Ambleside as it is in reality, because the high street looks like this. I used to work on that street actually. But I digress. Here we go. On the right hand side we've got one of the smallest houses in the UK, and this used to be a sort of storeroom. It was an antique shop. It was a kind of home, briefly, to unbelievably 8 people at one time. And you can see the sort of difference in the layout, but you know, it's essentially the same sort of place, isn't it? They really nailed it. It's, as you could see in the Google footage there, it's exactly like this. And it's got a downstairs and upstairs. It's a fully functioning little house, although it belongs to the National Trust now, so it's a tourism artifact. But it's very iconic, much loved by the locals in this area, and you can have a little tour around it as well, a very short tour. So let's get back the vehicle, carry on up the road. As you can see, it's all around sort of more spaced out, isn't it? Just to give that room for gameplay, which gameplay's got to trump accuracy of the location. Another iconic building here, St. Mary's Church. And they've changed the location of it quite a bit. But if I go down this little track here, we can get something similar. Maybe from this angle here, I would say is about right. So if we look at the Google Earth there, so that's of a similar sort of angle to view the church there. And there will be a road going down there. So that is about it for iconic, distinctive architecture and features for Ambleside, really. And that's all it really needs, I would say, because there's enough generic architecture with these very distinctive slate walls that scream out the Lake District to those who know it. And even if you don't know it, it gives you a very unique and distinctive sort of flavour of that area, so that it becomes quite easy to recognise that location. So somewhere around here would be the sort of high street. It's very different from all this lot, of course, but it's primarily a racing game, isn't it? And as I said before, gameplay trumps location accuracy for this sort of game. So it's a balancing act that the developer walks constantly in this sort of thing. And when you think about it, probably the vast majority of players probably won't be familiar with each area that you're trying to portray in this game. So it doesn't really matter, does it really? But I think it's really nice for those who do know those locations, and they can look at it and compare it to the reality in their minds. And it's really enjoyable to do, which is why I've done this video. So that concludes what I wanted to show to you, really, the differences and similarities of game versus reality. So thanks for joining me on that one. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.